All right, everybody, welcome back to the Move podcast, brought to you each and every day this year by Ventum Bikes. I got two of the bikes. I got the NS1, my road whip. I got the GS1, my gravel bike. I love this thing. It's my gravel bike especially. And I think I could actually just ride the GS1 all the time. I might need a separate set of wheels, like some road wheels, but that thing is also a rocket ship. Special offer for our listeners. Head on over to ventumracing.com. You get 10% off if you use the code WEDO. And if it doesn't get there within 3 weeks, you get another 10% off. And also, as we've been doing a few times every week during this tour, we have a Ventum Rider of the Day. All you got to do is tag at Ventum Racing and at WeDo.team on Instagram. Also, I think you got to follow us. Here's our man, DJ Moore 2019. He says, when I'm riding my bike, whether it be through the incredible views of the Alps or the beautiful countryside of Ireland, I'm exactly where I want to be. Everyone has their highs and lows. In my own personal battle with mental health, riding my bike helped me find the road back. Riding my bike makes me feel more powerful and in control, but it also makes me suffer and sweat. Amen. Some days you feel the energy pulsing through your legs as you battle uphill and know it's going to be a good day. And others you feel the pain of pressing down through the pedals, but nothing beats the sense of achievement when you reach the top. And it continues on. So we are talking about stage 20 and a special guest. You've heard his voice for years now. 5, 6, I don't know how many years. As you've heard it this year, my good friend Alain is here to do a live reading of Alain. And this is what I say. I don't know if you listen to the show. This is what I say. I say, Alain, where did we go? Where did we go from to? Something like that.
Yeah, well, today we're going from La Capelle Marival to Rocamadour.
Say that one more time.
Say it into the mic.
Say it into the mic. Here we go.
La Capelle Marival to Rocamadour. So from La Capelle Marival to Rocamadour.
Wow. And as a young French, like growing up in France, this is a serious question. Like, because you grew up in France, you grew up outside of Avignon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, was the tour like we all grew up, one in Queens, one in Plano. Tour wasn't really a big deal. But growing up as a kid in France, I'm assuming it was a big deal.
Actually, it was a big deal. It's funny you asked the question because I was thinking today that I've never been to the tour. And I remember the tour coming into Avignon. And I could hear the guys at the end of the street going by, and I never went to see it.
Oh, we might cut that part out.
But it is very important. Now, of course, it's important.
All right, Alain, thanks for doing that. Are you on for next year?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay. Vamos. Now we're going to swap you out for JB.
Okay.
Everybody's like, yeah, thanks, dude. Merci mon frère.
Merci
nice ride today.
And while we wait for JB to step in, I know if you're watching the show, you've got to be wondering what in the hell is going on with Mr. Hincapie's outfit.
Let me see them glasses, bro.
These right here?
Yeah.
So this is just a little teaser of what we just,
This is 2022 TDF. How you doing?
So after 3 weeks, look, the riders are exhausted. We too get tired, and it just gets exhausting, and it's a grind, and we just got to make up dumber and dumber shit. So we had this idea, and we're not going to show the images right now on the show, but you'll have to watch our socials later, either mine, George's, or WeDo's. But it got really stupid this morning.
I think it's going to be the highlight of the tour for us.
Oh, it's
personally.
No. This is going to melt the internet. And then we did a fun little tour of the studio here. Actually, a walk from the office where we do a little pre-work, some studying, and then the commute, so-called commute to the studio. And we had a little fun with our friends from Eurosport and GCN.
Yep.
Orla and Robbie and Wiggo. Speaking of Wiggo, special guest today, Bradley Wiggins is going to be Sir Bradley Wiggins.
That's right.
Will be calling into the show. But back to the other thing, we made a little thing, Orla, with all the hair and makeup and the socks and all that shit. We got our own jam too.
We coming for you today, baby. We coming.
I can hardly look over at you with that.
Can I take this off? I'm starting to sweat. All right, thank you.
I'm sweating for you. Today's show also brought to you by Roca. We talk about them every day, almost every day. They are making the best product out there when it comes to eyewear. The sunglasses, the prescription eyeglasses, whether it's the optics, it's the weight of the actual glass, and the no slip. All these things, just kind of a game changer. And I love just seeing so many more people out there as we ride every day. It's like Roca. Yes, they are on the Roca train. Rob and his crew all down in our hometown of Austin, Texas, just changing the game. Special offer for our listeners, 20% off. Head on over to Roca, that's ROKA.com. So, G, it's been a little bit hot here in Aspen. And the other day I came home from, we came home from a ride, and I see you sitting there with your hand. It looked like a coffee pot, but I see all these cables and all this stuff, and then your hand is in something.
That is correct. And I have it actually right here behind me.
What?
This is a revolutionary new device by Cool Mitt.
Oh.
Brought to you by The Feed.
So is it like an is it like an ice vest, or what do we got going?
No, even better, bro. Hold up a second. Let me figure out how to put my hand in. You put your palm in here, bam, and it cools. I mean, it cools your body temperature within a few minutes.
Wow.
So
I got to give it to you on this one, man. This looks legit. As we know, cooling your core body temp is the holy grail of performance. It's like a car's engine. When your body overheats, it starts to shut down. These guys using this on the tour?
So there's a couple teams using it. They were using it today for the warm-up. You saw all these riders are wearing cooling vests. Well, this thing is actually quicker, works better, super efficient. I'm actually super excited to try it when I get home back to that 100-degree heat in Greenville, South Carolina.
You shouldn't go home. All right, so here's the deal on these Cool Mitts. There is over a year-long wait for these things. Over a year. But our friends at The Feed have 10 more units to sell during this tour, which is only 24 more hours. They're sold out there's a year waiting list. They're available today, and first come, first serve. Go to thefeed.com if you want to skip the wait and get one for yourself. Again, that's thefeed.com.
And I'm taking this baby home with me.
Yeah, I bet you are.
Whoops, I'm stuck here now.
Oh boy, we'll edit this out. So it's getting a little monotonous. I mean, this Wout Van Aert, and I was so interested because yesterday we were talking about him as a potential GC contender. And I said it yesterday, he can time trial better than anybody. He didn't disappoint. The guy is an absolute motorcycle, right? Speaking of motorcycles, with that fur coat, wouldn't it look, never mind. You guys will see
You'll get it later.
You'll get that later.
Yeah, I think the main thing about Wout Van Aert is just miraculous recovery.
Yeah.
Like we talked about burning all the matches, and he's been explosive this entire tour.
Yeah, we mentioned it yesterday. People were asking. I think we should ask Wiggins as well what he thinks about his recovery and his GC chances. But how cool was it with our Belgian counterparts showing a clip of our show discussing what we thought about Wout Van Aert? Super fun to watch. Thank you for putting that on.
I think it's, his problem is that, not a problem, but the issue will be that he is on a team with other GC contenders. Somebody would have to leave. Let's just, kind of walk into the future. Somebody would have to leave that program in order to achieve that goal or that dream. And I don't see that happening either.
How do you be any team and let Wout Van Aert go?
Or Vingegaard go.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think you do.
Don't.
And look, we're sort of getting ahead of ourselves. He was asked about it yesterday, perhaps because we started talking about it. They covered it pretty extensively on Belgian TV, but he was pretty coy about it. I don't, and maybe that's not even in his interest. If I were him, I would also be coy. I'd just leave people guessing.
Not only that, I think a few things that he said in his interview today post race was, one, he just loves to win bike races, and that's all he's focused on right now. One days or cyclocross or whatever it may be. But two, he loves the team. He said that this is the most special team that he can ever imagine being part of. You saw him try to tackle Jonas as he's crossing across the finish line.
We have a clip of this. This is really, when we're and just before we run it, we were talking yesterday about the morale inside. I have never seen this, right? I know what good morale in the team looks and feels like. Look, he is standing on the finish and
look at that emotion.
And just breaks down. I mean, that is, I get chills watching that. I mean, I've never seen a guy as prominent as Wout Van Aert standing on the finish line to pat his team leader or the yellow jersey on the back and then get emotional.
So yeah, we're talking about history here. We've never seen.
You never stood out there.
Well, one
and waited. No,
one because you'd probably totally blow me off if I was waiting for you at the finish line. You'd be like, "Wait, what are you doing here?" Two, you were never in the bus. You'd go do you had a helicopter, Jizzy, or some private car taking you to the hotel.
And super hot podium girls. There was this one I met in 2003, and I was like, "Damn, this chick is smoke." Smoke show. And then next thing you know, you're writing her love notes. Next thing you know, she gets fired for taking the love note. Next thing you know, you're married. Next thing you know, you got 3 kids and squadooch.
Squadooch.
That's a true story.
I'm staying focused on task at hand right now. It is a true story. But I feel like talking about Wout Van Aert right now, who better can we have on the show than Bradley Wiggins, who came
Sir
from
Bradley Wiggins.
a very non-GC sort of upbringing, then wins the Tour de France in 2012. Sir Bradley Wiggins, can we pull him up right now? Oh, there he
wow.
is.
What, is that
We got Matt Stevens on as well. Are you serious?
Well, he's just using my laptop, so I just like.
Was that?
Well, Matt, can you say hi to everybody, please?
Hello, everybody.
Big fan of Matt.
Yeah.
Hey,
this is like a scene from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Look at where we are.
Oh my!
Oh my
This is-
goodness!
Dear God!
Where in the world did you
honestly,
guys
but-
stop? Where are you guys?
We're like 20K from the finish
Wow.
in some random little place that's got Wi-Fi. So incredible. Yeah.
I was worried about that. I said, George, George says, oh, he's driving. I was like, oh God, this is never going to work. But
Bradley, thank you for
hang
coming
on a
on.
second, Sir Bradley. Were we catching you having a bite of a sandwich or something there right when we joined in, or what? What's
No. I've got my vape. I got my Danish snooze.
Okay, all right, no comment. How are you, bud?
I'm good, thank you very much. Yeah,
Okay,
it's,
and first and foremost, congrats to Ben. That was amazing.
yeah, no, thank you guys as well. You did some amazing videos. He pissed his pants when you sent him them. He's now on a lad's holiday in Croatia, chasing anything with a pulse. So yeah, good luck to Ben out there.
Wow. And I okay. So I told George, I said, make sure Sir Bradley knows that this show is not G or PG rated. I'm glad you got the memo.
Yeah, well, Johan just messaged me the same thing as well. So I got that idea that anything goes, huh?
Anything goes.
Anything
goes on the move.
So Bradley, I mean, first of all, thank you for coming on. We're super excited to have you. We've been talking so much about Wout Van Aert and his GC chances, and I feel like it's a sort of similar story to you. I mean, you got a track background. I was fortunate enough to spend 1 year on the same team with you on HTC, and we only did one race that whole year, Tour of California. I just remember we laughed our asses off. This guy can pretty much imitate anybody in the peloton, by the way, which is incredibly funny to watch. But then a few years later, you were just on a whole different level. You were like a robot on the Tour de France in 2012. You were one of the nicest guys in the bunch, but you can tell that year you just had this focus that nobody can get in your way. You were just, it was the focus you had that year was incredible to watch. Just walk us through the build up, and also not only the focus you had during the tour, but the crazy training rides that you were doing that year, because you told me about it.
I had I obviously went to Team Sky after I realized that I had a chance of doing something in GC when I was with Garmin, around Christian van der Velde and a few other guys. And they gave me this sort of the confidence that I could actually do something. But at that stage, then when I went to Team Sky, obviously I had a lot of pressure. I had that all on my shoulders that I was going to try and win the Tour de France with a British rider in 5 years. And Dave's approach to it was very, very regimented. And it took me a year to realize that this has to become a religion, and you have to live like a monk 24/7, 12 months a year. And I'd always have an off season and really enjoy the off season. So I kind of had to learn my trade as a GC rider. There's a difference between winning and being great at something and just being good and finishing fourth or fifth. And I realized that with Team Sky, and it took me a while really. And it took me a while to get the right people around me. So I had Tim Kerrison, who came from a swimming background, who had an outside perspective on things of how to train. And we thought outside the box. And then I had obviously won the Dauphiné in 2011, crashed out of the Tour when Cadel won, and then came back and got third at the Vuelta. Now, when I got third at the Vuelta that year, I realized that this thing was possible. So I didn't stop that winter. I trained all through the winter because I'd had my off season from having broke my collarbone at the Tour de France. And then obviously we hit the ground running. And I also had my childhood hero, but also someone who wasn't a yes man and was always willing to pull me up and have a go at me, which was Sean Yates. And he was the most important man that year to me, Sean Yates. He did, that guy lived it just as much as me, really. He went out every day at 4 o'clock in the morning to recon whatever the stage was. And he'd do it on his bike in flip-flops most of the time. I mean, the guy's a nutcase, and anyway, you guys know.
Yeah,
we do.
Sean Yates was the most important figure, much like Johan was to you guys when you were at US Postal and that. But also I had an amazing team around me. I had Bernie Eisel, who was sort of looking after Cav,
Yep.
but also would double up with me. I had Michael Rogers, who was a team captain. And Michael Rogers, I mean, he's probably the most intellectual man I've ever met in terms of numbers and bike riding and things like that. So you're only as good as the people around you, I think, half the time. I certainly was, really. So, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about now with Jumbo-Visma, really, is that they have an incredible team around them of people. I watched, as I stood on the line today, the analysis guys and the tech guys that do all the numbers. They were actually crying at the finish line today when Jonas Vingegaard finished. So a team is a team, and you live it with everyone around you and the people around you. And sometimes it's very difficult to leave that team just for money, really, and try and go and win the Tour de France. So someone like Wout Van Aert, for him to leave a setup like that and maybe take more money and go to, I mean, what other team is out there, really? Lotto, Soudal, or a team like that. Because I had the same discussion with Geraint Thomas last year. Now, where does he go? His contract was up last year. Does he go and try and win the Tour de France again with another team and take more money? Or does he take a massive pay cut and stay at Ineos and challenge the other big hitters that they have in Carapaz and Egan Bernal and that? And it's landed well for him this year. They've all crashed out or got sick, and Geraint's now finished third in the Tour de France and resalvaged the end of his career, I suppose.
Yeah, Bradley, I think you guys had a similar situation going on. I'm looking at the results of 2012. You won both time trials, and then, of course, you had Cavendish winning 2 stages, and you guys had this incredible amount of rock stars on the team. So clearly there was one goal, but there was other things going on as well. I mean, talk about the dynamics, because I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, he was world champion that year, right?
Yeah, correct.
So, and we had a world champion going back, getting water bottles for Bradley and the GC guys. It was a similar dynamic going on. I mean, how did you guys work through that whole thing?
Well, I think fortunately, me and Cav were like best friends. So we would we could understand each other's aspirations within the team. Sean Yates never really understood the whole green jersey competition. For him, it was about yellow and winning GC.
Amen.
And then you had Bernard Eisel and Cav that were close friends as well. Michael Rogers kind of was friends with me and Cav. So we had sort of people that were intermediaries that kind of could sort of mediate all the different aspirations within the team, really. And then you had Brailsford, who would stay out of that and get other people to do his dirty work. But you also had, Chris Froome in there, who was just coming to prominence.
That's
really.
right. Yep.
He was kind of like the sort of loner within the team, really, because he was kind of friends with everyone, but had his own aspirations, but didn't tell anyone. So it was this weird dynamic, really, where they only came to light in the third week, where I had a 2-minute 10 lead. And then Chris attacked on La Tourzière, which we all know the story after that. But me and Chris are pretty close again now. But I think that's what made us such a good team as well. Is we had a team of winners, really, that became a team, and everyone had their individual goals, and that we won the team prize that year. I mean, we were just I don't think it's Team Sky or whatever the formation they came after, Ineos or ever had as close-knit unit as that, really, because I think it showed on the last day as well. Because don't forget, we had Edvald Bosenhagen that year.
That's right.
And Richie Porte. Then when we did the lead out on the last day for Cav, coming across the Place de la Concorde,
Yeah.
The yellow jersey with Edvald Bosenhagen, who was a Norwegian champion that year.
Well, don't forget what else you made me do that year, Bradley. You made me go off the front.
We let you go off the front. Yeah, I never forget that.
This was Bradley that made me do that. He's like, you got to do it. Well, I appreciate it. I still much.
But then, do you remember what happened after that?
Yeah,
don't get him started.
I won't say names, but some
you should take a little inspiration from Bradley. Because he clearly has no filter, a man after my own heart, and just says it the way it is. And G is Bradley. This is not. He's a very nice guy. Okay, he doesn't do that kind of shit, and he's got a filter, unlike you and I.
Yeah,
but
that George has definitely got a bit of cunt in him. You can't be that good on a bike.
A bit of what?
He's got a bit of cunt. He's got a cunt streak.
Yeah. Wait.
I'm not sure.
Was that what? Anyways, but I got. Can I ask a question, G?
Yeah, go for it.
I know
I'm just so excited.
I know this
Sir
is
Bradley
like a
Wiggins
full-on
on the show
fucking
with
man
us.
crush. I thought you were excited yesterday. Jesus. So Bradley, you're in. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're in the race on the moto behind, or you're sort of in the peloton, right?
Yeah.
And we've been talking about it for weeks, and we called it in the first week just as intense and as hairy and as fast as the first week was, and then the second week didn't disappoint. I mean, my question, how wrecked is this peloton?
I mean, they must be wrecked, but they're not showing any signs of that, really. It's the racing now is just. It's hard to describe, really. When you're on the motorbike, I mean, the first hour is pretty much always flat out. Some days it's been 2 hours, but then some days a break would go straight away from the start. I mean, it's so unpredictable. I think you can't predict the racing now, really. And then the final 50, 60 kilometers is now the worst, really, because there is no one team riding on the front. There's teams fanned across the road in different team time trial formations because everyone wants to be in the front. But it's incredible how much the sport has changed in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And the style of racing.
We comment every day. Yeah.
Everyone realizes or thinks that they have a chance to win now. There's no hierarchy in the bunch anymore. And I think it's, I said it on TV last week, actually, that when Pogacar was still in yellow, that I didn't think he took enough state responsibility for his status within the peloton in being the yellow jersey. So when a break would go of 10 riders, he wouldn't stop for a wee and neutralize the race straight away like we used to do in 2012. He would let the race carry on until the break actually formed and wait for other people to stop. So I don't think he realized the responsibility he had on his shoulders to control the race and dictate it a little bit. And in that way, make their job easier. But I think we saw that the day he lost the yellow jersey, really, is his willingness to attack on the Telegraph too much. And it's almost become a junior race now.
That's exactly what I said last week. Right. So, and what about, what's your opinion on, all these little sprints that he did for 7th, 8th place, full gas sprints? I mean, don't you think as a former Tour winner that those things actually affect your performance later on as well?
Well, I think he burned too many matches. And I also think, gone are the days now, I think, where you're in the yellow jersey and you maybe would, if there's a chance to win a stage and you're in a group of 2 or 3, you'd maybe let someone else win it and keep the importance was to keep the jersey. Because
absolutely.
Now they're sort of sprinting in yellow 4 stage wins. And I think I questioned the start of his downfall when he won on La Planche de Belleville and did everything within his powers to go and pass Jonas Vingegaard and win. Not that he needed enemies in this race because he's very quick afterwards to congratulate Vingegaard and things like that. But I just thought that those extra little sprints, those extra little numbers and power maximal sprint powers that you put out, they create, they create damage and they add up over a couple of weeks. And I couldn't understand the way he was racing, the pattern of racing he was doing, particularly on the lower slopes and the flatter parts after Valois of the Telegraph before they hit the Galibier. And I think that was where he ended his tour ended.
We totally agree. But it's led to an very, very exciting tour. I mean, up to Planche de Belleville. We were like, oh God, what are we going to talk about for another week and a half? It ended up being a hell of a race, and Vingegaard never showed. And I wanted to ask a question about this. He never showed any weakness after that. Obviously, he had an amazing team. Both teams were getting a little banged up with crashes and COVID and all the 2 Cs. But then you see him in the time trial today. He's absolutely flying. And then on one of the final descents, we're just sitting there watching, going, dude, he is ripping around every corner until finally he just about loses it. I'm just like, kid. You have a whatever minute lead. Just chill, settle down. Like, do not take risks.
Yeah, I mean that's what surprised me was how good his last time trial was today. Really.
Yeah.
But I think you also saw the camaraderie between the team and that at the finish there as well. Now, I suppose the question I'd ask you guys is, where does Pogacar go from here? Yeah. Because his team, I think, apart from 1 or 2 riders, I don't know if Mauro Gianetti's the man to guide Pogacar now to another 3 or 4 wins in that Tour de France. I don't know if Pogacar has to now restructure that team because they really look like a broken unit. Aside from the COVID cases and that, there's few riders getting old. They've got some big riders in it, and they're not a patch. They do not match Jumbo-Visma. So where does he go from now?
Well, Mauro Gianetti went on the record. I saw the headline this morning. He said pretty emphatically that Tadej Pogacar is still the best rider in the world. He had a bad tour, had some bad luck, had the hunger crisis. But he feels like he stated it, that he's still the best rider in the world. I don't know that I would argue that with him. Look, all we do is sit here and watch the race and talk about the action. I think this sets up for a hell of a 2023 tour. I mean, these 2 kids, and who God knows who else. If Bernal comes back, it's a duel, legendary.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And I think when you have the likes of Sepp Kuss and these other guys that have really been amazing for Vingegaard. He's got a super strong team, and they look like they're going to be a team that stays together now. And they're also a team now with a new direction. As Roglic now slowly fades away, I think that's probably the end of Roglic in terms of the Tour de France within that team.
Yep, agreed.
We agree. Yeah.
I have a very random question for Bradley Wiggins. I got some intel that you have quite the cycling collection, not just from your era and the modern era, like going way back. So two things, share two things with me. What is your favorite thing within the collection? And what is like the most random one? Because I've heard some that are just like, how did you even get that?
My favorite one was Fausto Coppi's yellow jersey from the 1952 Tour de France.
Wow.
And also I have Louis Ocaña, his Spanish time trial champions jersey from where it was a Spanish, he didn't have, it wasn't a time trial jersey, but he wore it in the 73 Vuelta. And another one, actually, funnily enough, that I really treasure is Jose Manuel Fuentes, who was a Spanish climber for CAS in the 1974 Giro, because there's a famous film by Jürgen Leth called The Greatest Show on Earth, where he goes head to head with Eddie Merckx on one of the last climbs, and he wears this. And Merckx told me a great story. Eddie told me a great story once that he feared Fuentes in the mountains. He really feared him. He was the only rider he feared in the mountains to climb. And one day they saw the CAS team in a cafe at the start of the Giro eating ice cream. So Merckx said to his teammates, we're going to go out at the start here. And they put 12 minutes into Fuentes that day and won the Giro. But Eddie's always got some great stories to tell when you sit with him as well, really. So it's, but there's some, I mean, look, I've loved cycling since I was a kid, really. And I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have the people that inspired me. I was 13 when Lance won the Worlds in Oslo. Wow. And I've told you that before, and it's cycling does that to people, it's, you can never take away how someone made you feel, really. And I will never have anyone in this sport, journalists, media, tell me how to feel about something or how to feel about sport. So it's what, yeah.
Amen to that.
So Bradley, one more question for all of our training data nerds, because you told me this, some of these training rides you did before the 2012 Tour de France, I felt like we trained really hard, but the shit you told me you did, those like 10-hour rides, walk us through that, because I was kind of shocked when you told me how crazy that sounded.
Maybe it went 10 hours. I think with every year that's gone by, they got longer. But no, we would do up to like 7.5-hour rides, and that was what this Tim Kerrison brought in from swimming, really. So calorie deficit rides we'd do once every 2 weeks, really, where we would try and burn as many calories on the bike, but you couldn't really go over 200 watts riding because you would only consume protein during that ride. So we would have a scoop of protein and propeptide every half an hour on the bike, so you didn't go into sort of ketonic way and burn muscle. So it was just a way of burning fats, really. But we would do that as a team, and we'd do it individually. And you'd come back and you just have a salad and a side of salmon and a couple of sleeping tablets to go to bed before your brain find out. And they were horrible. I'd sit on the patio in Girona when we lived there, or, in Mallorca when I was living there. And your two kids are running around and they're having spaghetti bolognese and things like that. And you've just got back from 7.5 hours on the bike. But that's just, it all became about numbers, didn't it? More so than ever with the Team Sky. And that's pretty much how I won the Tour, really, was going away from tradition and going away from what your heart tells you to do and trying to win the Tour de France like Pantani and people like that. And maybe it was a boring Tour that I won, but, you have to accept at some point in your life, you're not going to be able to moonwalk, and you can't moonwalk. Yeah. So I had to ride a Tour in a certain way and be very efficient and win it through the time trials, really, and things like that. And, I was happy with my lot in life.
So
after that.
Would you really fixate on the watts that were happening during the climbs at the Tour de France? Because you weren't much of an attacking, explosive climber, but you were so steady. And were you always focusing on that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was always about going from A to B as fast as possible. And I knew my limits, really. And I would never go into the red too much when there was attack or anything like that, because I knew that you have to keep that going and pay for it. So I would I'd ride to power the whole time, just keep the threshold, knew where as steady as possible, because the most efficient way from going A to B as possible is riding obviously a steady state power. Yep. But obviously that's not always possible when you're on a climb and people are attacking. But we did that as a team. So we would get the team riding at the highest, like when we took the yellow jersey on Planche de Belfi, we would ride above everyone else's threshold, but we would train at threshold over and under to increase our threshold. So when others were riding at, above their threshold and their lactate was going up, we were clearing lactate at 400 watts. Yeah. And that came from swimming, really. So that came from the training that trained swimmers, was that they would train at a threshold level that they would end up clearing lactate at other people's threshold numbers. Cool. If that makes sense.
Amazing.
Fascinating. Sir Bradley, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks
you're a legend for coming on. Keep up the great work.
Thank you very much.
And,
Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Bradley.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
And thanks, GCN, for letting us borrow.
Yeah, special shout out to Eurosport and GCN. Just so you know, Bradley, too, we made a special, a little video for the whole GCN crew that will drop later. And, everybody gets the shout out.
Yeah.
But you guys check it out in a little bit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bradley.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks,
Love
brother.
the show. Thanks, guys. See you.
Take care.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cheers. Wow, yeah, but the guy's what a personality.
Oh,
you
he's
could
incredible.
see it, and he's and I love it. He's had his ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
And they've been well documented. Not like some of our other friends in the sport, but man, the guy always just lands on his feet, and he's so fucking good. You can tell why. I could have sat there and listened to that for hours.
Not only that, but he's a huge fan of the sport. I mean, he knows all the history of all the past tour winners, classic winners. He's just a massive fan of the sport. And it was just funny watching him in 2012. I mean, he was just like a robot. He was so focused on the task at hand, but that's really not him. He's a very personable guy, super funny, one of the funniest guys in the bunch. So for him to transform himself into this like ultra focused Tour de France winner it was fun to watch.
So today's show also brought to you by Element. We talk about it all the time. It is warming up here in Aspen, believe it or not. It's in the mid 80s. I know that all you people down in Texas are like, screw him. But our go-to hydration source has been and continues to be Element. 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium, no sugar, no gluten, no artificial BS. Tested by the best, used by the best. Special offer for our listeners. You're going to get a free sample pack so you can dial in the flavor you like. Head on over to drinklmnt.com/themove. So that's a free sample pack with any order. drinklmnt.com/themove. Today also brought to you by Momentous. We've spent our whole lives, as has Sir Bradley Wiggins, optimizing their performance. This company and this brand has taken it to a new level, right? Don't take it from us. We're going to see an exceptional Geraint Thomas, finish third in the Tour de France at his age against a lot of odds. Avid user of PR lotion, proven to work. Over 6 clinical studies that proves that it buffers lactic acid. Over 175 pro and college teams trust it. It is NSF certified. Now's the time to start using the world's best supplements and get the best products to optimize your life. Head on over to livemomentous.com/themove. You get 25% off. Use WEDU, WEDU25 for 25% off at livemomentous.com/themove. It kind of it doesn't get old talking about Wout Van Aert. It's like, yeah, he won another stage. Yes, he's in another break. I mean, the guy is.
And probably can win tomorrow as well. I mean, he's clearly.
That would be. Now, the sprinters would just be like, truly be like, fuck my life.
He did it before, too.
I know.
Yeah, he's done it before. So that's going to be interesting to see how motivated he is tomorrow. Clearly, he's got one of arguably the best lead out train for tomorrow, if in fact he wants to win. But just an incredible rider.
And Vingegaard, and he never showed the only sign of weakness I saw was just that mental slip of trying to get ahead of himself and trying to be too aggressive when you have such a cushion. He was riding, he had the best time up until that point, and he's flying downhill. And if you watch the race, I mean, this is in an old part of France. These roads are anxious, it's super technical, twisty turny, and I'm sitting there, I can't even watch it. And
you're thinking he's going to blow the tour.
We're both thinking, why is he taking so many risks?
Let me tell you something. If you were watching, you know what we're talking about. If he crashes there, because he's going so fast, you are not getting up from that very fast. That's a broken collarbone. That's something. Look at this. I mean, here we see an image of it. He will lose the tour.
So this reminds me.
You're not going to bounce up from that crash. He was going that fast.
This is very familiar to me for 2011. Cadel Evans was in second place, the stage after Alpe d'Huez. I believe it was a minute and a half behind Andy Schleck. He's hauling ass in this time trial and taking big risks. With about 10K to go, our director at the time, John Lalonde, is telling him, Cadel, you already have 2.5 minutes over Andy. You're in the yellow jersey. Please, no more risks. And he ended up losing the time trial to Tony Martin by like 10, 15 seconds, which had he been the normal Cadel going for it and taking all the risks, he probably would have won it. But you got to prioritize what you're trying to accomplish.
No doubt. Speaking of Vingegaard, we have a little, and we showed this a couple of years ago. Talk about a trajectory and the arc of one story. This kid,
in 3 years' time,
in seemingly no time, he used to sling fish. Now look at this. And he is, of course, using the good ice. I'm a big fan of crushed ice. Love it. This is his life 3 years ago and discovered by the team because he sets a PR or KOM on Strava that was apparently so exceptional. They said, we should check this kid out. Fast forward, Maillot jaune. Incredible.
Discovered on
story.
Strava. That's
New
like
life.
And it's a very well-known segment, I guess, right, George?
Oh yeah. Funny enough, the guy he got it from was our very own TJ Van Garderen. Every team basically does training camps there in Calpe and that area, and that climb I've probably done as many times as I've done my local climbs in Greenville, because we all go there for training camps and all test ourselves or race up it, but it's a major climb for most of the Pro Tour teams in the peloton.
From that to
And we have George keeps nudging me. I have a feeling this is not good news, right? So
No, I think we got to go because we're getting close to the finish, and I feel like
bottle. So this is an update on the bottle contest. Lance or George, I've got a new one today. This is very cute. Who's going to lube my chain? Wait, hang on a second. So here is over the feed.com.
I might not even need it.
Feed.com/TheMove. What has happened? I am at 816. Dr. Hincapie is at 845. This feels like it's too late for me.
And actually now I'm trying to find this. I might have totally screwed this up, but
Listen,
I need some.
Okay, here's the deal, people. All right. When you see this image that we post later on the socials, on the S&M, the SM social media things, that was my idea. When you see how creative and how genius this is, it was my idea.
Wait, excuse me. Your idea was to ride to the studio and by yourself on this brand new machine. Me being head of content, which I got head of HR, gave me a promotion yesterday and a raise, by the way. So we're going to hit you up with that later. But I might not even need to bust this out because I'm actually leading now. But I feel like we need to share these things with our viewers and listeners, because this is like, I got 3 of them, by the way, because I was going to try to bring the heat today because I thought I was still behind, which I don't even really need them. But one is, don't flick me, bro. This is an international saying used by every rider in the bunch. Even my 8-year-old son said it to me yesterday. I'm like, really? He just said, Dad, did you try to flick me? Anyway, don't flick me.
Okay.
2, he told the story of my wife and I. What did she say to you like 20-something years ago that you found really funny? She still says it to you to this day.
Do your life.
Do your life. Hold up.
She says to me.
So that's my second bottle.
Mel was her English was not very. It was early days. Okay, now her English is absolutely perfect, as is her Spanish. But her English was just terrible, and she was like arguing. She was getting really frustrated, really mad, and I could tell, man. She was about to say something. She goes, "Do your life," and I was like, okay, I will.
And lastly,
I promise.
Lastly, that is the story. Lastly, on that note, apparently we have a bunch of Arabic viewers as well. So we have it in Arabic. Live your life.
Oh, look at that.
Boom, 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 boom. Thank you, Dia, for sharing this with me. And we had a pronunciation that he gave me, but I can't find it anymore, and I can't say it. So live your life in Arabic.
Yeah. Dang. And another update, because these images went around the world. Of course, we did the Move camp in Majorca with about 12 or 13 fellow riders. And of course, we had some great guests. Jan showed up, and the pictures were so special, at least certainly for me, and I think for many, many others. But we're going to add on a camp. We're going back to Majorca. That camp is sold out. But G, being the Colombian that he is, he's like, why are we not doing one in Colombia? Special announcement: the Move, the camp, is going
to Colombia. We need Coatland. We need the music. Little Carlos Vives or something. But anyway, you can go out there on what's the website? OutThereAdventureTravel.com.
We'll post it up.
We'll post it up later if you want to go to Medellin with us.
Medellin. And George will be there. I will be there. Also, other special guests. I think we're talking
Santiago Botero,
Victor Hugo Peña.
Yep.
And who knows? There's a lot of good riders there. So
it's going to be fun. In November, we can give the dates when we post it up later.
Yeah.
But it's second week of November, I believe.
We have some. I actually clipped more comments than questions, because if you looked online after we had Cav on yesterday, and I'm sure it's going to be the same after having Wiggins on today, people were really into it. Kylie wrote, Cav seems genuinely excited to be on the show. Don't normally see him so high energy. Got another comment. Absolutely the best Cavendish interview in years. Joe writes, never really knew what to think about Mark Cavendish, but the segment made me a fan. Well done, boys.
Right on.
One more. Brian writes, that interview with Cav was off the charts good. You can't buy that interview gold. Tip of the chapeau to you gents for letting us share in that gem. And one more. Ganna Rai writes, y'all let Lance have a Cinnabons in peace.
and vote for me in the bottle contest. This is serious. And you know what? I don't care. I knew. I mean, the fact that I even was close, or had days that I was ahead, is a miracle. I never expected to ever win. So do whatever you want. Do your life.
Trying to do the rope-a-dope now. You're trying to bring on the sympathy. He's bringing on the sympathy vote. Really? 1 day left.
Oh, is that it?
Tomorrow's going to be an interesting day and a first
right on, yeah.
for the move. We're going to be covering both the women's and the men's race in the same day. The women roll out earlier in the day tomorrow from the Eiffel Tower. They get to do the Champs-Élysées.
Yeah. So they finish about 4:30 European time. And of course, now with the Champs-Élysées, now they finish much, much later. So the stage actually finishes at 7:30 p.m., which is super late. Don't matter. Rolled right into the party. But we'll cover the women's stage one. And then, and then probably cover another stage one that Wout Van Aert wins.
That's your call.
We should just pre-record it.
Yeah, I'm hoping for Caleb Ewan.
There's some hungry sprinters that slugged over those mountains.
Think about these teams. I mean,
yeah, they're all in. And tomorrow is we all know it's a parade for the first, 3/4 of the race. They hit the Shams, the speed picks up, and all the sprinter teams take over. And it's one of the best, most beautiful sprints in all of cycling to watch. So stay tuned.
And the weather's forecasted to be good. It could be, if it rains on that day, I'm sure we've talked about it in the past. It does rain in Paris on the final day sometimes, but over these little light cobblestones, it can be super greasy and quite slippery. It's like projected to be 93 and sunny. So, should be a pretty uneventful day for Jonas Vingegaard. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you guys twice tomorrow. Keep in mind, twice. All right. That's new.
With Mari Holden and Ali Tetrick.
Ali Tetrick. If she ever gets into town, where is
tonight?
Ali?
She's racing gravel today.
Is she?
Isn't that right?
Beast mode. All right.
Something like that.
Thanks, everybody.